But the truth is, that's right. Not everybody will qualify under this provision. That's the truth. That's the truth. That's why we're still going to have to pass a bill. That's why we're still going to have to pass a bill. So, listen, I heard you, and what I'm saying is we're still going to have to pass a bill. This is a first step. It's not the only step. We're still going to have to do more work. So I've heard you. I've heard you, young man. I've heard you. And I understand. I've heard you. But what I'm saying is this is just a first step. So, young man, I'm talking to a lot of people here. I've been respectful to you. I want you to be respectful to me. All right? Okay. Now, understand that not everybody who comes here is Latino. Sometimes that's the face of immigration. Let me tell you, I'm from Chicago. And we've got some Irish immigrants whose papers aren't in order. We've got some Polish immigrants whose papers are not in order. We got some Ukrainian folks. Down in Florida, we got some Haitian folks. This is not just a Latino issue. This is an American issue. This is an American issue. And what we have to do is be honest that tracking down, rounding up, and deporting millions of people is not realistic. That's not who we are. Most undocumented immigrants are good, decent people. They have been here for a long time. They work, they work often in the toughest, most low-paying jobs. They're trying hard to support their families. They worship at our churches. Their kids go to school with our kids. So the fact is that, even Republicans who say that they don't want to pass this bill that was passed by these legislators, they're not serious about trying to deport 10, 11 million people. That's all rhetoric. Now, what we do expect is the people who are here play by the rules. You shouldn't get rewarded for cutting in line. So we've offered the following deal. If you've been in America for more than 5 years, if you have children who are American citizens or legal residents, if you register, you pass a background check, you are willing to pay your fair share of taxes, then you're going to be able to apply to stay in this country temporarily without fear of deportation. You can come out of the shadows, get right with the law. Now, let's be clear on what this deal is and what it isn't. This action doesn't apply to anybody who's come to this country recently. You can't show up for a week and then suddenly apply. You can't, because borders mean something. It doesn't apply to anybody who might come illegally in the future. While I support a path to citizenship, and so do all these legislators here, this action doesn't grant citizenship or the right to stay permanently or receive the same benefits that citizens receive. Only Congress can do that. All we're saying is we're not going to deport you and separate you from your kids. Now, if you've taken responsibility, you've registered, undergone a background check, you're paying taxes, you've been here for 5 years, you've got roots in the community, you're not going to be deported. Now, I know some critics call this action amnesty. It's not amnesty. Amnesty really is the system we've got today. You've got millions of people who are living here, but they're not obliged to pay their taxes or play by the rules. And then politicians just use the issue to scare people and whip up votes at election time. So they want to keep the system as is. People living in the shadows, maybe providing cheap labor, not subject to any worker protections. And then you pretend like you're being tough on immigration. That's not the right way to do it. That's the real amnesty. Just talking, leaving this broken system the way it is. The bottom line is mass amnesty would be unfair, but mass deportation would be both impossible and contrary to our country's character. That's not who we are. That's not who we are. So what we are offering is accountability. It is accountability. It's a common sense middle ground approach. If you meet the criteria, you can come out of the shadows, you can get right with the law. If you are a criminal, you're going to be deported. If you plan to enter the United States illegally, your chances of getting caught and sent back are going up. And for those who don't qualify under this rule, we're still going to need legislation. But the actions I've taken are not only lawful, they are the kinds of actions taken by every Republican president and every Democratic president for the past half century. Ronald Reagan took action to keep families together. The first President Bush took action to shield about 40% of undocumented immigrants at the time. This isn't something I'm doing as if it's never been done. This kind of thing has been done before. So when members of Congress question my authority to make our immigration system work better, I have a simple answer. Pass a bill. Pass a bill. Pass a bill. Nobody is stopping them from passing a bill. You know, pass a bill. You know, I mean, I got to admit these days, you know, I don't always listen to all the commentary, but I understand that some of them are already saying that my actions sabotage their ability to pass a bill and make immigration work better. Why? Why? I didn't dissolve Parliament. That's not how our system works. I didn't steal away the various clerks in the Senate and the House who manage bills. They can still pass a bill. I don't have a vote in Congress. Pass a bill. You don't need me to call a vote to pass a bill. Pass a bill. Because the actions I've taken are only a temporary first step. I don't have the authority to do some really important reforms. We should be creating new programs for farm workers. We should be adding visas for the high-tech sector. We should be creating a pathway to citizenship. But only Congress can do that. The House could still pass the bipartisan Senate bill before the end of the year. They still have time. They still got, what do you got scheduled to be in for another 4 weeks? Right after Thanksgiving, call the bill. It's been sitting there. And if they don't want to pass that bill, then I pledge to work with Republicans and Democrats next year to pass a more permanent legislative solution. And the day I sign that bill into law, then the actions that I've taken will no longer be necessary. And I'll give everybody credit. I'll be happy to have John Boehner and Mitch McConnell alongside Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi and Luis Gutierrez and Bob Menendez and all these folks. We'll all have a nice signing ceremony. So I just want to emphasize this issue. You know, because I hear some people say, well, we're in favor of immigration reform, but we don't think that it should be done without Congress. Well, Congress, go ahead and do it. And meanwhile, Washington should not let disagreements over one issue be a deal breaker on every issue. That's not how our democracy works. Congress certainly should not shut down the government again over this, because Americans are tired of gridlock. We are ready to move forward. And we don't want to, and we just want sensible, common sense approaches to problems. Now, this debate deserves more than the usual politics. Because for all the back and forth in Washington, as I said last night, this is about something bigger. This is about who we are. Who do we want to be? America is not a nation that accepts the hypocrisy of workers who mow our lawns, make our beds, clean out bedpans, with no chance ever to get right with the law. We're a nation that gives people a chance to take responsibility and make amends and then create a better future for their kids. America is not a nation that should be tolerating the cruelty of ripping children from their parents' arms. We're a nation that values families, and we should work together to keep them together. America attracts talent from all around the world. We educate the world's young people in our universities. And then we just send them home, even if they're wanting to start a business or they've got some specialized skill. We just send them home, and then they compete against us. We should be encouraging the best and the brightest to study here and stay here and invest here and create jobs here and businesses here and industries here. You look at Silicon Valley, 30, 40% of the companies that we now take for granted and that have changed our lives, they were started by immigrants. So that's what this issue is all about. And that's why it deserves reasoned and thoughtful and compassionate debate. And that's why we have to focus not on our fears, we got to focus on our hopes. You know, every day we receive thousands, tens of thousands of letters and emails at the White House. And as you can imagine, for the past few days, a lot of them have been about immigration. They've come from good, decent people on both sides of this debate. And I wanted to, I wanted everybody here to understand, there are folks who are good, decent people who are worried about immigration. They're worried that it changes the fabric of our country. They're worried about whether immigrants take jobs from hardworking Americans. And they're worried because they're feeling a lot of economic stress. And they feel as if maybe they're the ones paying taxes and nobody else is taking responsibility. So they've urged me not to act. And I hear them, and I understand them. But I've also got a lot of letters and emails reminding me why we had to act. From American family members of hardworking immigrants who feared their families could be torn apart. From dreamers who had proudly stepped out of the shadows and were willing to live without fear, even though it was a big risk for them. From Republicans who don't agree with me on anything but are tired of their party refusing to vote on reform. One Republican who wrote me said this. He said he supported my decision, and he said, and I'm quoting, "I believe that a human being created in the very image of Almighty God is the greatest resource that we have in this country." We're not a nation that kicks out strivers and dreamers who want to earn their piece of the American dream. We're a nation that finds a way to welcome them. We make them earn it, but we welcome them in as fellow human beings, fellow children of God, and we harness their talents to make the future brighter for everybody. We didn't raise the Statue of Liberty with her back to the world. We did it with her light shining as a beacon to the world. And whether we were Irish or Italians or Germans crossing the Atlantic, or Japanese or Chinese crossing the Pacific, whether we crossed the Rio Grande or flew here from all over the world, generations of immigrants have made this country into what it is. It's what makes us special.